AI can help run your small business smarter, faster, and with less stress. In this episode, Barrett Nash, co-founder and CEO of InfiniteUp, introduces DOER Business, an AI-powered digital chief operating officer that organized your task, delivers daily briefings, and gives small business actionable insight for growth. Barrett opens up about the challenges and wins of building AI tool for entrepreneurs and how his journey from founding Africa's first startup to launching Infinite App shapes his vision today. Hello, Barrett.
Hello, Renat. Pleasure to be here today.
Thank you for joining. Barrett, could you start by telling us a bit about yourself and your journey as a founder? I know that you have two startups.
Sure. So, again, thank you for being here. I'm Barrett Nash. I've made the bad decision to go by both Barrett and Nash to confuse the entire world. I'm a Canadian, but I've not spent much time in the last, 20 years living in Canada. Most of my last 20 years has actually been in sub-Saharan Africa, where I was doing my first startup, where we were doing an on-demand ride-hailing for motorcycle taxis in Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Learned a lot on that, and a part of what I learned was, your business model counts, and like the business model for Uber is notoriously cash inefficient. I feel like I kind of only learned about that while I was like, midstream, and when we ran out of money, and I had to start over again. I realized, I didn't feel like the purpose I was trying to have that got me into startups in the first place had been scratched. So I wanted to just dive right back in, but I wanted to be more mindful of how I made choices and how I approach things, so that it's kind of like a measure twice, cut once mentality, so that I don't get 3 years of my life and go, oh, the business model doesn't make sense. So I started a new company called InfiniteUp, and we've been focusing. I founded it with two of my best friends, and what we've been focusing on is building apps that can unleash business productivity potential, now largely through an AI lens. And then when we started, we were VC financed, but we didn't win it on the first try. We've been making lots of apps, and it's very challenging to make an app that both makes a lot of money and gets a lot of users. So we've been actually working as an agency to self-fund as we continue on our journey of trying to find an app that becomes like a critical inflection point of what AI can do to empower the productivity of businesses and individuals.
Okay. Looking back at your time in Africa building and scaling your first startup, what lessons from that experience are still helping you today?
Well, for sure, what I realized was that user experience is doesn't make a difference what your app is. If you don't have a great user experience, people are going to get lost in it. We were doing like a lot of map-based stuff, and there was just an assumption that people know how to read maps, but in actually many places, people don't have like the same capacity of reading maps as different parts of the world. So we had to say change the design elements from a map-based interface to one where it was just stand outside and get GPS, and have it be more text driven. So user interface is extremely important. The correct market. I originally started in Rwanda, a small country in Central Africa, and it had a lot of things going for it. It low corruption, high ease of doing business ish, but it didn't have great animal spirits. And when we relaunched in Kinshasa, a city, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where they had a really acute need for the product, it was like night and day. Where in Rwanda, it felt like we were always pushing them to use the product. Where in Congo, it was like a flood. They just loved it. They were hooked to it overnight. And then yeah, think about business models. So what I'm doing now with Infinite Up is we're not trying to have the idea that we have the perfect idea. Rather, we've got concepts of what we believe is an app that can go along with our goals of unlocking the potential of the individual. Um, and where previously maybe I would do a startup and put tons of time into it just to realize it's a lousy idea because say users don't actually want that for some reason, for example. Now what we're trying to do is move faster. So even the description of the product that you gave in my introduction for DOER Business Well, there's been like several changes on that. Like since I published that, we've had more than 8,000 people go through the application. And like say a key outcome was that people didn't like the name. They didn't like DOER Business. It was confusing. We're DOER Business by InfiniteUp. So like, here's my elevator pitch. Hello, I'm Barrett Nash from InfiniteUp presenting to you DOER Business by InfiniteUp. And like I've already used like half my time, right? So now we're just calling the app InfiniteUp. And then we're also taking away the business focus, where there is a business focus to it. We're not taking that away, but in our testing, many people are going like, wow, I really love this idea. I wish I could use this for my family. I wish I could use that for myself. Or like, why are we limiting people how they use it? So like, the journey is not really separate actually from what I was doing in Africa. It's like, very lean methodology, like build, measure, learn. And it's just kind of like a continuing journey. And like, I've been doing this for a while now. Like, I think we just found my old company, Safe Motos, in 2014. So like I've been in the trenches like now for like more than 10 years. But I also feel like, like what happens with most startups is that they either like hit it big right away or they like give up and go home. And I feel like actually like, like the stakes of making something that actually works can be so big that it makes sense just to kind of keep hammering it home. And I feel like the mentality is that if we keep trying with like discipline, we're gonna like eventually hit like a home run, like hit it out of the park. So it's just, not give up, just get to the next version, build, measure, learn, repeat.
Yeah, and as I know now, you're building your startup in Belize, Georgia. What it's like to grow a startup away from traditional hubs like North America or Western Europe? What are the pros and cons?
So the company is actually incorporated out of my hometown in Canada. I'm a Canadian. This was in opposition to what the advice would typically be, which is to incorporate in Delaware. But my last company, we actually incorporated out of Ireland off of the advice we gotten. And what I kind of realized is, well, where you incorporate from matters. And like ultimately, the point of all of this is to be successful. If you're not successful, it doesn't really matter. But if you're successful, one of the primary outcomes of a successful company is tax revenue. So I figured like if the company needs to be somewhere, I'm going to incorporate it from, my hometown, the place where that I'm, still like a tax resident from. So I'm incorporated out of Nanaimo, BC, Canada. But then the company is entirely remote. So there's only 4 people at InfiniteUp. We're like an example of what's possible with a super small team. And, while I'm based in Tbilisi and my colleagues are based between actually Syria and Lebanon, and the company is incorporated out of Nanaimo. And actually Nanaimo is where we're like looking for like initial launch. We figure like if you're going to launch somewhere, because like say to your point in Tbilisi, well, it's hard to actually make a product work in a market where like, for example, the people don't speak your language. So like one of the things I'm doing, and it's another lesson too from Africa, in Africa, it was really hard because I wasn't like a primary target user. Like it was hard to predict. So with this current app, the idea is to be we ourselves, the members of InfiniteUp, we are our own target users. So rather than even like kind of like get into like go to market, get into like, first 1,000 users, like, what does scaling look like? We want to see, can we make an app that hooks us? Like, do we actually use the app the way we intend users to do it? And why kind of push it to others until we have that insight? And then kind of like looking around us. And like, I think for actually like pushing an application, geographically, it doesn't make so much of a difference. It's more like off of user sentiment. So say, for example, on one end side, like the app as it is, the InfiniteUp app, really is like an AI assisted task manager. It's like a stripped out feature from DOER Business. But like say a feature of this is you can add others to tasks. So like say you go to make a task list and you make 20 tasks, and on those 20 tasks, you add 5 friends, and each of those friends are in different countries. Well, like the app now may be getting used by those people in other markets. And I'm also, for example, like focusing on like communities like Reddit. I think Reddit advertising is very cool, where you are bringing people together by a like and interest. So like say, you can target like say like a Reddit for like say like mildly interesting, or like like productivity hacks. We can advertise to the community of people who've already decided that productivity hacks is like of interest of them, and those people could be distributed all around the world, but each and every one of them could be of interest to using this product and could be a total target user.
Let's deep dive in your product. Briefly, like an elevator speech, what it is, why it matters, and who it's really built for.
Sure. So it's like an AI assisted task manager targeting like your personal life and also like like your work life. It's not designed to be a company tool though. It's a tool about you yourself of where you're trying to go. What we found was that just about everybody has a to-do list somewhere, right? But most people aren't using them very well. And it's kind of like a bit of a funny thing when you think about it that like, kind of for the most important thing in your life, at the highest altitude of your thinking, like where is it that I'm trying to go? What am I trying to accomplish in my life? Um, what are my what are my ambitions? What are my dreams? And we kind of don't have like a part of our natural daily rhythm. So like I'm sure like people write them down, they ignore them, they'll have them for work. For whatever reason, people start task lists, but then don't follow through with them, and they kind of get forgotten. And this might not describe you, but I'm sure it probably describes some people in the life around you. And I know, like, for myself, like, I can always use a better relationship with my task manager. So what we've done is easy onboarding. Like you can just take pictures of your existing task list. It gets imported in. It can work just like a normal task version, set task list, actually, like, but where it gets like kind of like a bit more interesting is where we're bringing AI into it. So when you create a task, the AI works and makes subtasks for you. Each task has an AI assistant that works with you for the closing of that task. And then the AI looks at all of your tasks and all of your subtasks and like, your date dues and things like this. And it creates like an hierarchical daily pathway of basically like, here's what you should be doing today. And you can easily make it flexible. Like it's not like the AI is to be your dictator, but it's like trying to like not just make it where a task list is somewhere where you collect tasks, but partnering with AI in completing the tasks themselves and working with AI in the prioritization and triage of your tasks. With the goal of, the slogan we're getting behind is, from task to done. So like, we'll know the app is working when, we ourselves are kind of hooked to it. And instead of me defaulting to my Google tasks or something, I'm actually getting better value from this. And I'm watching my tasks get done.
Thank you. At what stage is DOER today? How long have you been working on it, and where is its product now? Prototype, pilots, paying customers, how many customers?
So like as an app, this app has gone through like many different versions on like a common architecture. So like the architecture of how we software develop is using a Flutterflow Firebase open AI stack. And Flutterflow is really nice at rewarding work already done. So once you kind of get into the Flutterflow ecosystem, which is a software development environment, you start like layering on like where you almost like can't get rid of the things you've already done. So like it's like like say like, it's like the fridge you get stock. So each app we do, when we do a new app, we don't throw out what we've done. We build on top of it. So the current version of what we call DOER Business, which we are now renamed to InfiniteUp to simplify naming convention, so it's just the name of the company, has had we're probably up to about 10 versions now and gone through something like 20,000 different users. But the primary metrics that we're looking for at this stage is because we're pre-revenue, pre-getting people to commit to revenue. It's rather we're trying at can we get people to do the functions in the app that we're hoping to, like spend time in app, and getting the retention of what we're expecting, like a positive retention rate. And what we do is we release a version of an app. We share it with like a certain number of people, like say between like 100 to 2,000 people, and we look at the analytics. And often the analytics do not suggest that like the user is hooked, unfortunately. So like say this last version of the app, what we had was that people were spending good amount of time in the app. When they'd get there, they'd spend like like 5 to 10 minutes. That was nice, but it was like like 98.5% like people would only come once. Like we weren't having people coming back, but people were giving us direct opinions, which was awesome. Like both like like we just in a suggestion box and also like in interviews and stuff. And what the feedback we were getting on this last version of DOER Business was it's too complicated. Like there's too many flows, there's too much going on. Like we were trying to make like almost like a software suite, but like how do people adopt an entire software suite at a time when they're not hooked to like that to like they're not hooked to it yet, right? They haven't like adjusted to the magic trick. So when you think of like something like Twitter or Reddit or LinkedIn, all of these are platforms that start quite simply and then grow and grow over time, but they have like like some like magic hook that's usually like only a couple of screens, right? Like Twitter I used to do like for training people how to dev, let's make Twitter in 15 minutes. So what we realized was we had too much going on, and all of that can be good, none of it is lost, but basically we brought like 10 apps in one, but we didn't figure out what's the hook in there that gets people to go through all 10. So what we did was we actually like threw out like 9 out of 10 of the apps in the experience. We can use them again later. We've got like an idea of like like an app store or whatever with them that can be brought in, but we're focusing just on AI task list, which was something that was existing in DOER Business, but because there was so many things going on, it was almost like kind of hidden. And we saw those when people did find it, did engage with it, there was like multiple wow moments, but we were doing ourselves no service by hiding it. So now we're basically starting again from zero. Is each experiment you start again with zero, and we'll do the same strategy. We're going to, something that's a bit different is we want ourselves to be better users of this first. So before we even kind of go out to like, get like a couple hundred users, we want to like see certain metrics of our own behavior first, because we should be target users of this. So like DOER Business created it, loved it, really impressed by it, like could have given like a, pitch to the world leaders on it. But I myself never became a user of it. I wasn't drinking my own Kool-Aid. And I feel like I was empathizing with the feedback we're getting from users. It is too complicated. It doesn't have a ritual to it. It doesn't hook me. It's like cool to try it, but like, I myself wasn't going back. So that's where we're at. We're, at zero again, but based off of a bunch of insights. And it's time to like, put the rocket on the launch pad again and see where it goes. And this time we're, I don't know, as always, feeling optimistic, because you have to believe in what you're doing. But like, it's not like cold shot. It's a culmination of what we've learned. And if it doesn't work, then there'll be another layer of learnings. But I'm feeling like we're getting closer. Like, can't you think of a bunch of people around you who could use like a smarter task list? And there's lots of task lists in this startup sphere we're in. But for one, like I'm sure if you think about it, like almost all the task lists that we see, they're like ugly and feature bloated and complicated and not very intuitive, right? And then think of your startup side of your life, like, all the people around you. Don't they need like a better relationship with their task list?
Yeah. Um, in one of your interviews, you said AI is not a product, it's wrapper of human capability. How does that idea show up inside DOER?
So like a big thing that I feel like is that like AI is not like a replacement. This idea of like, like I'm, swimming in the pool while the AI is working for me. I think like AI and human beings are like symbiotic, and we augment each other together. And I think actually what we built with the InfiniteUp app is a very good example of this, right? So you work with the AI in giving it all of the tasks you're wanting to do. You almost like, like it's like a basketball. Then it's got it for a while. And what does it do? Well, it does things that you're too lazy to do or don't feel like doing, like creating like subtasks, creating start dates, end dates, prioritization, like a bunch of things it can do in real time that then you can review and give fast feedback on, or it gets put into like, a daily sphere. But basically, like, I feel like when I think of like good AI, this is my own definition. Good AI, if it's working properly, I feel like it means you should get like a better quality product in what you're doing faster and easier. Now I see like a lot of what AI has become like all these like chat bots, like going back and forth. And for sure, chat has a place. But what I'm trying to do with the InfiniteUp app is that it's actually going to like empower you to be more efficiently, more organically, more naturally resolving your personal tasks, the things that are your own priorities, and have it feel like it's not in your way, not demanding it from you. Like you just pull out your app in the morning and the AI has run overnight, looked at all of your tasks, all your subtasks, everything it knows about you. Like it's always kind of like getting to know you more, the person, better along the way as well. And it basically presents to you like your like roadmap for the day. And you can look at it and go like, oh, I don't like this, slide down. Oh, why is it telling me to do this? That can be next week. You can move it all around. But you're now starting the day with a super intelligence that knows as much about you as it can know, telling you, by the way, in the priorities that you've identified to me, here's how I think our day should look like. Shall we go? Right? And you don't have to think about it at all. It just happens automatically.
I have a question for your business model. How does your monetization work, and what exactly customers do to get each level if you have a diversity?
So like right now, we haven't even finished the app yet. We're still
Mm-hmm.
building it, right? For sure, I'm going to launch it being like free, because what I want to see is if we can actually get people into this rhythm of hooking, of using it. Then I feel like we're thinking of like 3 tiers right now. One is a forever free tier, which is just a normal task manager, but without the AI stuff, right? It doesn't really cost us anything to do that. Maybe like some mild server charges. But if people like, I feel like it's important to have a free forever tier. And I don't want people to like lose access to their tasks and stuff too. I want people to be able to like move in. But then I'm thinking of doing like a $12 a month basic AI, which is like basically the features I'm describing to you. Like having an AI partner for building, uh, building, completing, and prioritizing your tasks. And then I'd like to do like a $250 a month version as well, if I can get away with it. And where I'd want to target with these is like actually like kind of like not the normal tech users. So people who are like maybe like more like executive class, who are concerned that maybe they're going to get like the AI wave passing by them. So they want to be having like, an AI partner in their priorities that they're working on. And this will be their a simple AI partner. They don't need to do anything. They just need to like enter their tasks and do the tasks, and the AI is going to work with them on it, like almost invisible in the background. But then with this too, we'll do like, like maybe like an hour or two of free consulting a month. We'll like, get feedback. We'll probably give some more features. Like I'd like to tap into this, like, more senior level person who's like panicked about missing the AI wave, who's not going to like, just like suddenly go like ChatGPT solving all my problems.
Let's talk about market. Zooming out to the market, how big is it today, and what key trends do you see shaping it over, I don't know, a few years, 1, 2 years?
Well, like the data I have better is for like small businesses, but like I'm really interested actually on like a consumer level of what this looks like. But like, like what I think of as like, so when we're like looking at small businesses, I don't know, there's like, 400 million small businesses. You can like go like, well, like, 200 million of them are like ready to be like digitized. And like, of those, if you get like blah, blah, blah. But what I'm really more interested in is like, for sure, everybody on planet Earth can have a to-do list, right? And like 99.99% of people do not have one or not using one effectively. So for sure, I think the market is there and it's huge. Like, like it's one of those ones that almost doesn't need to like kind of be measured, because it's, productivity at individual level, not even just a work level, like personal and there. Like it's an app that literally everybody can use, right? Everybody should have their high altitude partner working with them to complete the priorities they've identified for themselves. So the market is there. Well, what does the competition look like? Well, there's a lot of competition, but they're almost all focusing on startups and teams of employees reporting to a CEO, where the CEO and the C staff people have power over all of this. And it's like a very different, like, we're looking at this more at an individual level. Even if it's your professional individual level, it's like, like get a raise, like it's not like the stuff that goes into your company one. And they're just, for whatever reason, all really complicated and like so many features everywhere and like not very user friendly. Like, like we want to target the individual in an elegant, like, so simple, it's stupid, but powered by AI, which makes that simplicity work. But like, what I think of is like, well, like I've been like really mindful of WhatsApp. So like WhatsApp was just a clean text messaging service, right? Like there already was a million text messages service before that, but WhatsApp is the one that took off. It took off even though the WhatsApp team was extremely small. I think there was like only 12 of them, and they did it because they had a really great product, and that product self-replicated because everybody who you'd want to, WhatsApp with, you'd be like, hey, install WhatsApp so we can talk like this, right? I believe like, we're targeting something similar ambitious, but potentially similar viral thresholds, which is, hey, wow, with this product, I'm actually like, accomplishing the task that I've dreamed of for myself. And by the way, I can add anybody to the task that I'm doing because many tasks need more people. So let me work to accomplish all these shared tasks with the world around me. And people start like sharing them, creating shared tasks. And it has like a very high upper limit threshold because it's not like, like targeting like garbage truck drivers in Nepal. It's targeting anybody on planet Earth who'd like to have a better relationship with their task list. And if we can provide that in a way that's easier and more intuitive and higher retention and more gamified, giant marketplace, right? And competition's high, but like the competition for whatever reason, well, for a variety of reasons, is like gone a different direction by and large, and like is like not that nice to use.
What benchmark are you setting for yourself in terms of market coverage, both in dollars and number of customers?
Well, ultimately, like a customer acquisition cost is never zero, but it's always nice to see like, how close you can get it to be zero. I think again, it's like about like which stage of the journey is it being on, right? So like, why am I kind of even worrying about customer acquisition costs when I myself haven't actually been like acquired, right? And I'd be looking at this like to be more like really like it's like going as slow as possible so that like we can trust the analytics. Because like, like when you look at how this stuff works, basically what you want to see is you've got a customer acquisition cost, right? You want to make more money, usually like something like 3x that in lifetime value of the client, and you're off to the races, right? Well, right now we don't have any lifetime value of it because we haven't actually completed the product and got anybody happy with it. First, we need to like actually show that we've created a product that if a manually acquired user, like with my own two bare hands, comes together, brings them together, they're going to get hooked to it to a certain level, and that they're going to do the behavior we want. If we can then do that, then it's like, okay, we know that there's a lifetime value to this, then we can start like playing around with customer acquisition cost. Well, like where do you go, right? Like, I told you I was looking at Reddit, like, Reddit's nice, like, cost per click, cost per retentions. Let's see what we can get it to. But ultimately, it's going to be like a threshold of, what we can afford to spend on customer acquisition is a function of what the lifetime value is. And to establish lifetime value, we need to first, get some clients through. But I would think like, in our documentation, I have like a completely different documents for like, say the first 1,000 users, and then like with the go-to-market automated strategy. I feel like first 1,000 users is like really like manual, people around, like getting hands dirty, talking to people. And it's really about having this like feedback loop between the feedback you're getting, where like the first 1,000 users isn't me pushing the product in 1,000 users' hands. It's rather having like 1,000 users telling me how the product should change to hook them. Then once the product could actually make like 1,000 users happy, then I think it's time to do like more automated, like scalable customer acquisition strategies, and probably bring in some money from investment too at that point. But like, I think that we're in the probably like the money can always come, right? Like, I'm never going to say no to money, but like, but I think of like, getting money from a perspective like best practice, I see it'll be after we have like, something like 500, 1,000 happy users who are using the app. The dogs are eating the dog food, and then it'll be like, okay, and we know that we get $50 in lifetime value is $10 in customer acquisition. Give us $1 million. That'll give us $5 million in customer value through these equations, and we'll just keep cycling that through, growing up, or give us even more money so that we can use those same equations to not let like, like Google just add these same features in and redo Google tasks. Like, let's move fast.
Geographically, which market are you targeting first? US, Canada, Georgia?
So the first like physical market we're targeting is Nanaimo, Canada, the place where the company's incorporated, because I feel like it's well, like, instead of incorporation just being like kind of like a gray ether thing, it's where the company is, right? It's like, like the company has an address, that's where it is. And I think that it should work quite well there. But then I think it's going to be like following noses because, like, myself, my colleagues, we're globally distributed. So, like when like layer by layer. So the first like kind of like shell is just us and the company. Then it will be like an external shell, like say our investors, our cheerleaders, our stakeholders. And then it's going to be kind of going out from there, out from there, out from there. So like, like when I'm thinking of users who would be kind of using this, I think more like by community than geography. We are, English at the moment. And so like we are like, reduced like the English speaking world. But that's like, like a relatively high threshold. I'm thinking more like, which subreddits, like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like a natural place to be finding people who are trying to focus on their productivity. Life coaches, like I'd love to like create like an affiliate agreement with different types of personal coaches where this app could be like an instrument in what they're using. But I think when we're thinking of like, like what's most likely, well, what I think is most likely is, like good technology, I feel should be like transborder, right? So like say the WhatsApp example again, like WhatsApp, even though it was founded in California, it really kind of took off when it like skyrocketed in places like Africa. Like, like WhatsApp only kind of came back to the United States after it took off in other places. So like really what we're trying to do is like have the maximum aperture of where the app can be kind of like there's no reason why if like a community of people in Indonesia thought that this was the greatest thing ever, that they like there's no reason to not stop them. So rather it's trying to be as open as possible. And that's why like, like for ourselves, we're going to like seed as much as we can around us, but like basically then looking at data, if we're seeding around us well, where are people starting to use it? With some of our apps, we're building them for Africa, then we look at our analytics and we were getting better usage in like Southeast Asia, right? you know like I think a good app is, it's like seeing where it takes you. But my expectation is that like this app was made firmly with like North Americans in mind, Europeans in mind, startups in mind, people who are trying to get things done. It's not for a passive person. It's not trying to like force you to get things done. It's rather looking for, like who are the sort of people who are trying to like not complain about not getting things done, but actually want to like be in the fast lane, and this is a partner for them.
Okay. Let's talk about team. Who is in your team today and how big is it?
So the team is just four of us. I think we're a good example of like the powers of what small teams can do with AI, because I don't feel like we're particularly limited by our current team size. Like I actually think like more people, well, like, one of the challenges of building a big team is like, the more people you bring on the team, the more layers of management you need, the harder it is for communication. And you need to also make enough money for everybody to be satisfied. So like, it's like you hire more people to need to make more money to then cause more people. It becomes like this feedback loop where InfiniteUp, we're just four of us. And we do not like, we're very highly complementary. Like we came together because our skills kind of unblock each other. So we as a team are able to like, well, bring products through from ideation through design through development to testing to market and like scale and beyond. And we know we can do this because we do it for clients all the time. Like we make money as an agency rather than relying on VC, which allows us to be focused. Well, it allows us to stay focused because we can't rely on free investor money. It's nice if it was there, I'd have it. Um, but then how does our team breakdown actually work? Well, myself, I focus on like kind of like product ideation, product vision. I do a lot of the AI stuff, and I also like like manage a lot of like the operations and organization. And like as CEO, my job is to make sure that there's like money in the bank account. Then my co-founder Wasim, he is an extremely talented designer who's now bridged into being an extremely talented front end developer. So he basically like takes these ideas of products, transforms them into a design, and puts it into that does the front end software development. Then our other co-founder Malaz, he does like the back end. database, action trees, code, architecture, API calls, basically everything that like breaks my brain. He's like a whiz at, which is really awesome. Then our final colleague is Heba, and Heba does quality assurance. We didn't have quality assurance before, and it was just like recipe for disaster because we were like always like, it's done, it's good, we promise, but like like developers should never test their own software. And she also manages our project management stuff in ClickUp. um, and like as this skill set, we had the capacity of doing something like building like 20 apps a year. And in practice, what we build is like uh, maybe like 15 apps for clients, and then we do like 5 apps for ourselves that are the continuation of these doer businesses. So like the last release we did for was in like July, so now we're writing like another release hopefully before the end of September, while at the same time also working on client work.
Mm. And all of this for teammates, co-founders.
No. So Malaz, Wasim, and I are co-founders. Heba was offered to be a co-founder. We all got to know each other at the same time, but she didn't want the responsibility. Fair on her. So like we're together. Trust her opinion. But Malaz, Wasim, and I are co-founders, and then Heba is I don't know what employee since founding, something like this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And in describing your consulting work with other startups, you once said you can be like a Simon Cowell,
Um,
giving directly and sometimes tough feedback. Within your own team, what kind of culture are you building?
well, it's frankly always probably easier to be Simon Cowell to others than to your own products because you love your products, right? And like, like by the time you've been in this like startup game for a certain amount of time, like there's really like not that many types of apps out there, right? Like the number of people like myself doing a marketplace app, right? Well, like, even without knowing what it's a marketplace for, I can tell you it's probably going to be a very challenging idea because like marketplaces are just really challenging. Many people want to have apps that the technology is not possible for building. Like I had somebody who wanted to like make an app that could tell if like for pregnant babies if the baby was smiling. Well, like sure, that'd be a nice app, but like I don't have a sensor that does that. People will like have bad business models like, oh, like look, like we can just create like a chat GPT clone and charge it for free and it's charging us. So people basically like, it's very easy to make an app that gets users that loses money. So like I'm always like, don't try to waste time. But internal to InfiniteUp, I think actually like we try to kind of flip this on its head quite a bit, where because I am CEO, and while I believe we operate off of like a consensus where like the best decisions are made, and honestly, and all of us being there, usually like it's like one of the advantages of being a small team is we all know each other very well, we all trust each other very well, and like often like it will be kind of I speak last, and usually by the time like someone get to me, the idea I would have already had that I would have loved to have said first, somebody will already say, and maybe we disagree with it or we agree with it. But there's like frankly like a lot of advantages to being a small team because it means that like you can really do things by consensus, collaboratively. Some calls we do async, but like say today we did like 2 calls. One call working on the InfiniteUp app. It's the 4 of us on the call, like doing different things, but also like talking independently. And then we benefit from each other. So it's like, yeah, it's like it's quite fascinating actually, like being in this era of super small teams. Like I think it changes a lot of considering what a best practice was. Like I think suddenly like if you get like $10 million in your bank account, the thing to do isn't to hire like 100 people. Maybe you want a lawyer, maybe you want an accountant, maybe you want a CMO, maybe you want a COO, but like it doesn't need to be this explosive headcount because it makes things harder, maybe not easier.
Yeah. Already you started to talk about next steps. What's main break points you have next 12 months?
Well, like, like this doing this app stuff, like InfiniteUp app stuff, like it's really kind of like laying fireworks and like seeing if it launches or not. And like, if you don't play to win, you're not going to win. Like it can't be this like kind of like, oh, like just make the next app. This is very easy to be complacent and get into this like cycle. But like for an app to be doing what it's supposed to be, like it really should skyrocket. So like what I hope for is like in the next like, 3 months, that this InfiniteUp app just like kind of like, triggers, it goes authentically viral. Like that would be the dream, doesn't maybe have to do that. Maybe it starts getting an uptick. Maybe we get like 100 users that leads to 1,000 users. I'd be extremely happy with that, going up with that. But in some ways, it's almost more likely to like, if you can make 1,000 users happy and it's shareable, then why did it stop at 1,000 users, right? Like it almost would make more sense for it to kind of explode up. But then I'm also like prepared for there to be insights along the way. Maybe actually people are okay with their current relationship, with their task lists. It's not like what I'm seeing, because most people are garbage with their task lists, but maybe there's something like deeper there. Maybe there's like a psychological thing that we're not able to confront. Maybe the idea is good, but the way we build it doesn't hook users. And for whatever reason, this version of the app doesn't work. Well, then like what I'd look at is like what the insights you're showing us. And then like, in like another 6 months, instead of 3 months, instead of like a month, look and have another version of the app that incorporates those insights and try to have it launch again. But in the background, I'm also trying to make this agency work more successfully, because I think like one of the things of doing a startup is it shouldn't be this like modern day slavery where it's like all or nothing. You're either rich or you're poor, because like that's too like extreme, right? So at the same time, I'd like to make sure that we're having like a life where we can provide for ourselves and like, have fun and like take a day off if we want to, without the pressure of like, if the next app doesn't work, we're gonna be like, homeless, like eating socks or something, So like it's about trying to build continued progress each and every moment, while like laying the seeds for something that can skyrocket, but like, can't be forced to that. The only way it can happen is by continuing to bring our best selves and continuing to try.
Looking ahead, how do you imagine small business will be working with AI on daily basis?
Well, I think that like a tool like InfiniteUp app is going to be kind of key, because like what is a small business trying to do? Well, like, many of these are like routine tasks, right? Like, like open the shop up in the day, close it up at night. But usually people are like, what is it they want to do? They want to get more customers. They, they want to get better margins. They want to solve this dispute. They want to be thinking about like, this new product line. And I feel like, like one of the criticisms I've had with AI is I feel like we've gotten like stuck into this interface where it's basically like a chat GPT talk back and forth. And I think that's like fine, that's useful. But I feel like actually like a tool like InfiniteUp app takes a lot of the headache of AI out, where it becomes more automated. So like, what are your dreams as they're coming through the day? Quickly fire them into the app whenever you have an idea of something you'd like to accomplish, a passion, an idea, like, something that could bring your business to the next level. Let the AI in the background create like a plan for how you can accomplish that, and then let the AI direct you for when you should start making progress, so that you actually, just by having the idea of like, like, oh, we're a pizzeria, let's also, start selling ketchup, right? It's the same oven. Wow, it's genius. And then like you go like, like sell ketchup in the AI, and what's it going to do? It's going to be like, like learn how to make it, like, do research, break these things up. And suddenly, just from having the idea that you type in, there's now like a process that is actually going to bring the result of that thing that you had the ambition of.
And finally, Barrett, what's one piece of advice you'd like to give to someone who is on the fence about starting their own startup?
Well, I think like there should really be a realization. Well, there's different reasons to do a startup. I think that we're in kind of a metamorphosis in startup culture right now, because like the job market and technology market and developer market's really gotten hit hard recently. So I think a couple of years ago it was like, who do you see doing like a startup? It's like, some person who wanted to get rich fast, a startup was the way to do it. And it was never as easy as that, right? Like, like maybe money was like a bit different, but it was never like, like if you wanted to get rich, startup was not the most efficient way, unless you're gonna go like, like full like Kardashian, where like it was like, not about the product, it was about like the image you project. Now I'd say like if you're gonna do a startup, you should be kind of like doing it because you have like a good idea of something that you think, or a good direction of what you believe that like technology can do to unleash the goals you have, like from myself, like I've been on like a 20-year journey now, well, since 2008, where I've been really motivated by understanding how technology can empower the individual. And I think that journey still kind of guides me in my current thread. And it's less about like doing a startup. It's more about like a vehicle of like, well, like capitalization, bringing people together, like a methodology of how I can use technology to unleash the potential of people. And here I am now, like, to-do list. Well, a to-do list is a good way to do that, like a 20-year journey to get to to-do list. Wonderful. But I think like it's the purpose and the mission you have. And then like it doesn't really make a difference if it's a startup or not. It's like, are you working to go there? And I actually think a lot of startup methodology is lousy. Like I don't necessarily take pride in using the word startup. It's more like, this is the entity that I am using with people who share a similar passion with me to try to accomplish what our goals are, and also to make lives for ourselves along that way, that journey, so that we are empowered to continue the journey because, we don't have to worry about things like eating or shelter.
Barrett, thank you so much for your
Yeah,
story.
real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Renat.
Thank you.